All right, so a huge game calls for a huge guest, and we are pleased to be previewing the Sunday night matchup between the Bengals and the Ravens with our good buddy Justin from IngravenVids, going about 60,000 subscribers strong on his awesome YouTube channel, one of our favorites. Even though it's not a Bengals one, it's still one of our favorite channels. Justin, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming back on the show. How you doing?
No, for sure. I appreciate you having me on. We're doing good. Despite the Ravens being up and down, we're doing good. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you coming back on, and I'm going to share your YouTube channel here for folks, and we're going to put that link in the show description and everything here. Here is the YouTube. And yes, you can see here, subscribed. We are subscribed because it's a great, great channel. Tell us a little bit about it before we kind of kick this thing off with previewing this game.
Yeah, thank you again. The channel is IngravenVids. It is on there. We do videos every single day, sometimes multiple videos every day. But it is based around the Baltimore Ravens. We cover everything that the Ravens do, any moves that the Ravens might make. We also have a very interactive segment called Questions from Subscribers, where people that are subscribed to the channel, they'll send emails of different questions that they have that pertain to the Ravens, just pertain to the NFL in general, and we answer it in the video format. So feel free to come through, check it out. If it's for you, hey, subscribe. If it's not for you, that's fine as well. I appreciate any time that you spend checking out any videos. So thank you again.
Yeah, it's an awesome channel, and quite honestly, some of the things we've done here, we've adopted from you because you do a great job. And man, I feel like a slacker. We don't do things every day here, but we try. But nevertheless, you kill it, man, and great channel. Please, to our listeners out there, go subscribe because it is awesome stuff. And there's a lot of just general AFC North talk, NFL talk on there as well. But hey, you mentioned it at the get-go, at the jump here, 2-2. There is, when you're 500, there's just a lot of, right? It's like, oh, man, what could have been? You're still in the mix. Yeah, underachievement, overachievement, all these feelings come up here. Just overall, before we kind of get into individual players, matchups, and what you think is going to happen this Sunday, give us a little bit of the assessment of what's been happening with the Ravens, because they've had two heartbreaking losses, but still are at the top of the division here in this mishmash of 2-2 teams.
Oh boy, these Baltimore Ravens, man. I tell people all the time, like you cannot be a sane person if you're a fan of the Baltimore Ravens, because they will take you through it. They love stressing you out. They love playing with your heart, with your emotions. I always tell people too, 2019, that was a dream. That was not a real season where Ravens were just blowing out all these teams and whatnot. That's not the normal way they play football. So that wasn't even real. But these past couple of seasons, including this one, this is real Ravens football. It's crazy because I almost feel like I wish every Ravens game would just be an away game. Because the away games, they've taken care of business, and they've taken care of it in a major way. They played the Jets in week 1, then played the Patriots in week 3, won both of those games decisively. Those were two games where in the fourth quarter, the Ravens, they had everything taken care of. They had business taken care of. But for their home games against the Dolphins, I mean, in the fourth quarter, it looked like they had business taken care of. They were up by 21, and they lost. And then against the Bills, there was one point where they were up 20-3, and they never scored another point again. And that was also at home, and they lost. And coincidentally, both home games, they've both been on TV. So maybe it's a televised thing too. I don't know. So hopefully that doesn't impact the game against the Bengals, because that's both going to be on TV and it's a home game. So that's a recipe for disaster so far this season, but hopefully things can change. But with the Ravens, they really have to improve. I think one of the biggest areas of improvement that they need to do, both in their wins and losses, we've seen it be an issue, is the scoring late in the second half and then really in the fourth quarter. Ravens, they keep their foot on the gas. They put their foot on the gas early on in games, early on in the first half. They get it going quick. But then in the second half, things just get really, really slow. And as a matter of fact, not even get slow, but they just stop. The offense just stops. So if it's a matter of it's a lot of different things. Last game it was a matter of the offense itself. Just there were drop passes, there were interceptions. It wasn't taking the points. So it's a matter of execution. It's a matter of coaching. It's a matter of a little everything mixed in one. But they have to get their late game offense figured out, because if they don't, then it'll be the death of them this season. So hopefully they can pick that up and pick it up fast.
Well, the storyline last year obviously was the health of the Ravens. They were still winning games and still, in the playoff mix and everything, despite having who knows who running back at some point. I mean, it was, and then you had Lamar out and all the kind of things, and now healthier, Lamar's back. You're starting to see some of those running backs come back after having some of those devastating injuries. Kind of keeping from a macro perspective and then honing in just a little bit, just health of the team. I know Ronnie Stanley's in that mix too. Health of the team and how especially the run game has been looking with guys kind of slowly trickling back into the lineup.
Oh man, the run game specifically. It's so crazy as a Ravens fan that the run game has been terrible, and it's so weird to see. Lamar Jackson has been the only consistent in the run game, and that's not good. You got to get more production from your running backs. You got to get better blocking, run blocking from the offensive line. But you got to get healthier too. J.K. Dobbins, he just played in his first game 2 weeks ago. So this game against the Bengals, this will be the third game that he's playing in this season. So he's still been sort of getting back in the mix. Justice Hill, who had been our best running backs this season, he's hurt. He has a hamstring injury, so it's not looking like he's going to play in this game. Gus Edwards just returned to practice this week. So, but this was his first practice. This is his first week practicing in 13 months, so he won't be out there on Sunday. Ravens' other options at running back are Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis. And so far, they haven't really looked the best, but we'll see because they really don't have any other options right now. So the run game has been rough. It's been rough. But if they could get more out of the run game, I feel like that could be a big part in just really helping this team have a lot more success offensive wise.
So when we looked at on our show last this Wednesday here, when we looked at the game and we talked about how Lamar Jackson continues to seemingly improve as a passer, and he's doing a little bit more and more this year, and he's looking pretty good. However, he's had in 3 of the 4 games, he's thrown interceptions. And I think in 1, maybe 2 of them, it's been multiple interceptions. So your assessment of him, I mean, he's been thrown, I think it's like 11 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions or something like that at this point in time. So, I mean, the turnovers are occurring, but he's still putting up a lot of stats in the passing column and getting a lot of people involved. Your assessment of Lamar's passing this year, because that's always kind of a hot button topic when it comes to the Ravens and their quarterback.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know what? Before this Bills game, and even during the Bills game, the interceptions they gave me hope, and I was a little excited over them. Reason being, because in the Bills game, in the Jets game, he threw an interception. In the Patriots game, he threw an interception as well. He also threw like 3 touchdowns in both of those games, but the Ravens won those games. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's one of those things where every time Lamar throws an interception, then the Ravens win. So, okay, get the interceptions out your system, but that means we're going to win. But in this Bills game, he threw 2 of them, both to the same person, Jordan Poyer, and the Ravens ended up losing. So that threw that whole my own personal statistic out the window about Lamar Jackson interceptions resulting in wins. But he with the interceptions, there's been a lot of different stuff. With one of the interceptions that Jordan Poyer caught on this past Sunday, Lamar just threw it too low. He threw the ball too low, and then it got tipped way up in the air, and then Jordan Poyer came down with it. The second interception was on the famous 4th down call heard around the world. And Lamar, he got a little pressure, and he started backpedaling. And it's crazy because Lamar, when it comes to him backpedaling, we've seen him do the backpedaling, and sometimes it results in a great, phenomenal play. But sometimes, like in the case on Sunday, he threw the ball late because Devin Duvernay had came wide open. Lamar threw the ball late, and then Jordan Poyer he reminded me of Ed Reed on that play. The way that he just covered that ground and picked it off. It was a beautiful pick. I wish it wouldn't have happened against my team, but it was a beautiful pick. So he just it's just fine tuning little things here and there. As far as the interceptions, they aren't like any interception is bad, but with his interceptions, they aren't like, oh my goodness, who's that ball intended for? It is one of those interceptions. But it's just been close stuff with the defenders. They just make phenomenal plays. So with the interceptions, it's just a matter of tightening up a few things here and there, fixing a few things here and there, because those turnovers, they are big. They can be big, and they can again bring a team back to life who you might have been trying to take out. So Ravens definitely have to get those cleaned up, especially against a team like the Bengals, because the Bengals, they're going to be looking for the interception, but they're going to be also looking to capitalize on those interceptions, because Bengals are a team, they love that big strike. I know against the watching that Dolphins game the other day, the Dolphins, they weren't letting the Bengals get the big strike for the longest. Bengals had to take a lot of the short stuff. But then in the second half, there was a big pass to T. Higgins, the touchdown pass to T. Higgins. And then later on in the fourth quarter, the big strike to Jamar Chase. And then there was one drive with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They just started heating up. And Bengals, with the interceptions, another reason you don't ever want to give anybody an interception, but Bengals are a very aggressive team. One thing that I respected about their aggression was at the end of the game. It was late in the fourth quarter. And I think Joe Burrow, he hit Jamar Chase for a big pass, and they had the lead, but they still were attacking. And then a couple of plays later, I think that's when they hit Hayden Hurst for the touchdown that really ended the game and sealed it. So against a team like Cincinnati, the turnovers, not even that you want to limit the turnovers, you don't want to have any, because Bengals could score in a heartbeat.
Talking with Justin from IngravenVids, the great YouTube channel. Go check that out. I am a little bit curious here about your thoughts on the Ravens passing defense. They right now, after investing in Kyle Hamilton, who I really liked in the draft, despite some questions on the 40 time, just an absolute freak of nature. Saw him in person at the draft, and dude is just a huge guy. Williams, the safety in free agency, they bring him over. You get Marcus Peters back. Of course, I saw that Jimmy Smith retired and whatnot, but I mean, they've got a lot of the pieces back and then some. Yet here they are right now, giving up the most pass yards in the league right now at 1,261. So I'm a little confused, because there's so much talent. And they're 2-2, but there's that stat that just kind of sticks out there. And I'm not saying that to be like sarcastic or ridiculous. I'm honestly just, how does that happen? And what does that mean? What does that mean for this game here? You mentioned the Bengals wide receiver weapons. They've been doing some stuff. Chase hasn't quite been Jamar Chase of last year, but he's been making plays, and Higgins has really stepped up. Boyd's had some nice moments. So I don't know, man. What do you make of this and this performance as it comes to this matchup?
I mean, that you sound like a lot of Ravens fans with the conversation about, man, the Ravens, they invested so much into the secondary, but man, giving up the most passing yards in the league, what's that about? And it's weird. It's really weird. Definitely the Dolphins game. I think that, and especially with it only having been 4 games so far, that Dolphins game really that did a lot. And I mean the Patriots game and the Jets game as well, because every quarterback they threw for over 300 yards. And then Tua just, what did he pass for, like 6? I forgot how many yards he passed for, but it was something crazy. It felt like it was 600 yards, but six touchdowns. But anyway, teams have really been taking advantage of the young guys in Ravens secondary. Because Marlon Humphrey, he's been having an amazing season. Amazing. This is like the best that we've ever seen him play. And Marcus Peters, all except for one touchdown that he gave up to Tyreek Hill, he's been playing really good too. But then Ravens have some other corners, like a Brandon Stevens, he's in his second year, and I feel like he's still getting adjusted to playing corner, because in high school and college he played running back. Then late in college he's switched over from running back to cornerback. Then the Ravens drafted him last year, and he played safety last year. Now this year, in his second year in the NFL, he's playing cornerback. So he's been doing a lot of moving around throughout his football career. So I think it's still an adjustment phase for him. Jalen Armour-Davis and also Demarion Williams, who are both rookies this year, they got picked on a lot too. Now Jalen Armour-Davis, he was inactive in the Bills game last week because he had a rough game against the Patriots. He was getting torched early on, and then he ended up getting benched in that game because it was just rough. But I think teams are just really taking advantage of Ravens' young corners. And then there just been some miscues too. There have been some miscues to where guys have been wide open. The deep middle of the field has been an issue for the Ravens this year. And it's weird because with Marcus Williams, $70 million safety, he's been really good for the Ravens. He has been just great for the Ravens, causing turnovers around the ball a lot. With Kyle Hamilton, he's been interesting because first round pick, Ravens like primarily a defensive team. They're known for their defense and whatnot, but first round pick, and he hasn't been on the field too much. And it's weird that he hasn't been on the field too much. I was expecting, a lot of us were expecting with the Ravens when they drafted Kyle Hamilton and they kept Chuck Clark, because there was some trade rumors about Chuck Clark, but they ended up keeping him. A lot of us were expecting, okay, the Ravens are going to have a lot of 3 safety looks this year, but we haven't really seen it too much. So we'll see. I think the mix of youth in the secondary and also youth with the defensive coordinator, because this is his first year as Ravens defensive coordinator, with Mike McDonald, who came from Michigan. So I think guys is really just still getting adjusted to his scheme. He's really still getting a feel for how things work in the NFL, because it's obviously a lot different from college. So it's just a mix of everybody experiencing the growing pains all together.
Well, that's interesting. You talk about Hamilton not getting a lot of defensive snaps because the Bengals drafted at the end of the first round a defensive back, Dax Hill, who has not really seen the field. We kind of thought a little bit of the same 3 safety and or kind of swing guy out there with Dax Hill, and just haven't seen a lot of that either from the Bengals standpoint. Well, let's get you on out of here, Justin. And as we do so, what are your thoughts, predictions on this game? How do you see it going? I just don't see this being the same kind of situation that we saw last year between these two teams. I think it's going to be much closer either way, but you may have a different viewpoint. I don't know.
Man, I do think that I expected it to be stressful. Ravens are at home, so I don't expect a blowout. Ravens have lost both of their home games this year, building up these huge leads and then watching them crumble. So what I'm hoping happens, I hope that the Ravens don't build up a big lead, because we're not going to be comfortable with that. And I just feel like it's going to be a close game throughout. Man, the Ravens actually lose 3 home games in a row. I would hope not. And I think maybe that I'd say maybe a last second field goal. I think it's one of those games where whoever has the ball last, they could end up being the one that gets the win. So I'll say, just to pick a team, I'll say the Ravens on like a last second field goal. Ravens win by 2 or 3 points. But this is just one of those games where it's like, just looking at how the Ravens have been this year and how they've been at home, and how the offense has been in the fourth quarter, the passing defense overall. Last game against Josh Allen, the passing defense was really good. But this week, they get an even bigger challenge as far as the receivers they're going up against. Because last week was Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie. But this week, with Chase and Higgins and Boyd, that overall trio of quality is better than the trio of quality with the Bills. So it's gonna be tough. But yeah, man, it's like, and me saying the Ravens by like 2 or 3, I say that with like maybe like with 51% confidence and the other 49% to the Bengals. It's just one of those
No, I
games.
feel you.
And
I feel you.
especially how they've been playing at home and the pass defense, the lack of pass rush. The offense, again, like we talked about earlier, they've been getting off to hot starts, but they just have completely like stopped in the second half. So you can't do that. So we'll see how this thing goes, man. But either way, it should be a really, really good one. A really, really stressful one, but a really, really good one.
Well, Joe Burrow said that this is arguably the best secondary that he's going to face all season. And we both know that these teams love these one possession games and love making things a little bit more uncomfortable than most fans would like. But hey, right. Justin, thanks for the time. I'm going to put up your YouTube channel one more time. And if you would just tell us a little bit about the show, how to subscribe and where you're at on Twitter, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. Everything, the YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything is IngravenVids. And like we said on the channel, we post videos every single day. And we just try to have fun on there. Try to have a good time, not take anything too seriously, anything like that. But just talk football and just, again, keep it fun. So thanks again for having me on. Thank you for just all your support over the years, really, too. I appreciate that a lot.
Well, we appreciate what you do for us too, man. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. Hopefully Sunday night is not so stressful either way for you. I don't know. But thanks for what you do for us as well. And congrats on all the success with the channel, man. It's awesome to see it keep growing and growing and growing. You're doing an awesome job.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Take care.